You know, sometimes a regular humble old battle tank just doesn't scream, I mean business, loud or frequently enough. Enter the flamethrower tank, for when you absolutely, positively need to roast your enemies from across the battlefield.
This is fine. I'm okay with the events that are unfolding currently.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of A Tank Review with me, your average tanker Tony. Just like you heard, this week we're gonna flame on and explore or explode in some flame tanks in Sci Fi. First, I'm gonna lay a little bit of history down for you first. You know, get over the old barbecue pit, grab some marshmallows, roast or revel in some Sci Fi tanks after that. But first, please do like, share, subscribe, look at the socials, please join if you want. There's Patreon, Discord. I took a real algorithmic beating taking my time with that last video. So, as always, you legends, thank you all for watching. So, pull up a seat. I'm going to teach him stuff.
Captain's got to teach stuff.
Our story begins back in World War I, where some brilliant mind thought up, hey, instead of shooting our enemies, why don't we set them on fire? And the flamethrower was born. Turns out flamethrowers were just a tad bit explosive. So they tried to get around this by putting it into a vehicle. And thus the flamethrower tank was born. The British Mark I tank was experimented with. It was affectionately known as the Fritz Fryer. Citation needed. But it was supposed to make its debut sometime around 1916, 1917, but it never did. And it was essentially just a regular tank with a flamethrower tacked onto it because why the fuck not? Nothing says warfare innovation like turning your tank into a mobile barbecue. But it turns out because all the people in charge were fucking they completely disregarded the potential of this new battlefield advancement and literal breathtaking technology and, well, never deployed them on the battlefield or produced them in any quantity whatsoever. Fast forward to World War II, and flamethrower tanks began causing their own reign of chaos and terror on the battlefield. The Germans introduced the flammpanzer, and it was basically a regular tank with a flamethrower mounted on top because subtlety, well, never really a strong German suit. The Allies had their own, of course, called the Crocodile, and why wouldn't you call it something after an apex predator which has never needed to evolve in like millions and millions of years? That's a good point. Now, let's talk about the Vietnam War, where flamethrower tanks were the rebellious teenagers of the battlefield. A lot of jungle in Vietnam. What's a quick way to get rid of plants and re-garden an area? Flamethrowers. So, they rolled out the M132 armored flamethrower, which was essentially an M113 with a flamethrower on it. Nothing really special there. And also the M67, which would also be known as the Zippo, because apparently someone thought it was a great idea to name the tank after a lighter. No creativity there. Like, imagine the brainstorming session on that. Like, I'll bet it was that twat waffle McNamara that came up with that one. And of course, we can't forget about the modern era now, because flamethrower tanks are still making appearances on the battlefield. Just not the way we'd ever expect. We just can't let go of that idea of setting people on fire from long distances away. But it's not like the good old days. Today you've got trash like the Russian TOS-1, which looks like something straight out of a science fiction movie, because when you absolutely positively have to speedrun war crimes by turning an entire city into a block of flaming hyperbaric carnage, accept no substitutes. Unless you're using North Korean ammunition, in which case accept any substitute whatsoever. Anyone at all. In conclusion, flamethrower tanks are like the eccentric uncle of the military world. They're loud, they're obnoxious, they're flashy, and they make you question the sanity of anyone who wants to be near it. But hey, in a world of boring old conventional warfare, you just need a little bit of fire and flair to spice things up a bit. Just don't stand too close to the guys doing it unless you're too fond of getting your critters crispied. Now, that was a fun history lesson. Now, I hope you paid attention, because there might be a test at the end of this.
Shut the fuck up. No one cares.
Now, damn near every RTS has a flame tank in it somewhere. Harkonnen and Ordos and the Dune games. I'm sure there was one in StarCraft. The Command & Conquer series really does come to mind. Warhammer 40k for sure. Battletech, I guess, and Starship Troopers, if you count the filthy Xenos bugs.
Managed democracy. The freedom to make the right choice.
But let's take a look at some of the more common ones we've seen. Kane says, "He who controls the past commands the future." And nothing dredges up terrifying ideas from the past like flamethrowers and chemical warfare and nuclear weapons. Introducing the Brotherhood of Nod's latest backward-looking innovation in dealing with the Tweety Bird, the Devil's Tongue Flame Tank. Now in above ground and subterranean versions. Are you tired of your enemies cowering behind buildings and their puny defenses? Do you long for the sweet smell of victory mixed with the smell of burning pork chops? Look no further than the Devil's Tongue Flame Tank. It's here to satisfy those insatiable urges to set the GDI on fire and free those people from across the parking lot. Crafted with the precision of Nod's finest engineers and infused with the essence of chaos drugs, the Devil's Tongue Flame Tank is more than just a tank. It is a symbol of Kane's power, divination, and GDI's terror. With its sleek design, menacing lines, and flames licking in the air, it strikes terror to anyone who dares approach the Brotherhood. Why settle for mediocrity when you can unleash the fury of the Devil's Tongue upon your foes? Join the Brotherhood of Nod today and bask in the glory of victory, fueled by the flames of revolution. And remember, with the Devil's Tongue Flame Tank by your side, victory will be trembling at your feet. Peace through power. That was fun, so let's move on to the fiery, grim, dark world of Warhammer 40,000 and explore the Malcador Infernus and the Hellhound tank. The Malcador Infernus and Hellhound flame tanks. Because nothing says I'm compensating for something like strapping a giant flamethrower onto a tank the size of a small church. And speaking of small churches, we'll get to that in just a little bit. In the grim darkness of the far future, where there is only war, and no pesky Geneva suggestions, these flaming monstrosities will roam the battlefield looking for nothing but scorched earth and traumatized Xenos and chaos heretics in their wake. Let's take a little bit of a closer look at these war machines, shall we? First up, we've got the Malcador Infernus, affectionately known as Malcador's Mobile Barbecue.
Nice argument, Senator. Why don't you back it up with a source?
My source is that I made it the fuck up.
By those who've had the pleasure, or misfortune rather, of encountering this thing on the battlefield and still somehow surviving. Picture this. You see a massive tank that looks like it's never skipped leg day at the gym, rolling up with a giant flamethrower stacked right in the middle of it, looking like it's auditioning for an 80s metal band cover. Because why settle for subtlety when you can have a tank that screams, "I'm compensating for something," louder than a space marine with an oversized chainsword?
Why are you the way that you are?
And then we've got the Hellhound tank, the angrier, younger cousin of the Malcador Infernus. If the Malcador is a grizzled old veteran, then the Hellhound is a member of the E4 Mafia who believes that there's no problem that can't be solved with the proper application of enough promethium, and if it's nothing but ash, it's not a problem. With sleek design and putting flamethrowers, well, pretty much anywhere you want to and can on this thing, it is the embodiment of teenage angst and alcoholism. If teenage angst and alcoholism was a tank hell-bent on burning literally everything around it. But let's not forget about the practicalities of these flame-spewing behemoths. That was a tongue twister. Sure, they may look impressive, and they incinerate everything all in sight. You know, have you ever tried to parallel park a Malcador Infernus? Have you seen the length of that thing? The brutal blind spots? Trust me, it's not a pretty sight. And don't even get me started on the fuel consumption of these bad boys. I hope you've got spare gas cans handy, because these babies guzzle promethium like an ogre guzzles corpse starch protein shakes.
He has consistently denied what is wrong. A very...
Now, of course, no discussion of Warhammer 40k flame tanks would be complete without mentioning their effectiveness on the battlefield. Now, sure, they may not be the most subtle or strategic option available to you, but there's something undeniably satisfying about watching your enemies scatter like roaches at the sight of these roaring infernos bearing down on them. It's like fireworks display at a concert, but with more screaming and less festive music. In conclusion, the Malcador Infernus and Hellhound flame tanks may not be the most practical or nuanced weapons in the Warhammer 40k arsenal, but they sure know how to make an entrance and an exit. So, next time you find yourself facing down a horde of Xeno scum, just remember, when in doubt, set it on fire.
Oh no! What happened? Oh no, how terrible! That's just awful! How terrible! Oh no!
And don't you think for one second I forgot about everyone's favorite muscle battle mommies. The Adepta Sororitas Emulator Flame Tank, because nothing says holy effing fury quite like roasting heretics while singing battle hymns. It's like a regular tank, but with a sprinkling? No, that's not the right word to use here. Caking it on with a patching trowel of divine intervention and just a giant heaping sack of competitive racism.
What isn't allowed here? Racism. And what did we learn? They're people now.
And all the subtlety of a 12-inch boner in a room full of lesbians.
I have several questions.
Who needs conventional firepower when you can call upon the power of the Emperor to just burn your enemies away? Just be sure to pack your marshmallows and pillows for the good old-fashioned post-battle victory celebration. Nothing like a good old-fashioned barbecue and marshmallow roast to cleanse the soul after a hard day of purging heresy, and following that up with a nice pillow fight. Now, you've heard me wax poetic about Warhammer 40k and CNC Nod flame tanks here for probably a few odd minutes, so how about we just do some hard and fast pros and cons and wrap this whole thing up. Pros. 1. You have an instant mobile barbecue. Forget about lugging around that portable grill on your next picnic. With the flamethrower tank, you can cook up a feast in no time. Collateral damage? You win some, you lose some. Snow removal. Who needs a snowplow when you've got a flamethrower tank? Say goodbye to shoveling your driveway ever again, and say hello to melting ice caps with just a single blast. Bug zapper extraordinaire. Tired of pesky mosquitoes and black flies bothering you on your outdoor adventures smiting heretics? Simply fire up the old flamethrower tank and watch everything around you, including the bugs, sizzle into oblivion. It's the ultimate in insect repellent technology. Sudden and dramatic gardening. Need to clear out some hedges? Weeds overgrown? Trees in your way? Fire up these babies and you can turn everything to nice, clean, smooth ash in a heartbeat. Nothing says I mean business like, setting the whole garden on fire. Really sends a message to Martha and the HOA down the street. Impromptu light shows. You planning a party? Need a pyrotechnic display? Fireworks illegal in your area? No good places to get them? Just fire one of these babies up and you can put on a pyrotechnic show that's sure to leave your guests dazzled, slightly terrified, but never chilly. Now for some cons. Let's talk about those high fuel costs. I don't know if you've noticed the pump prices lately. I got a hard enough time keeping my Escape freaking filled up at the pump. And I have a pretty okay job, I guess. Now, could you imagine, with the cost of inflation and everything else, trying to fill up a malcador Infernus in the grim darkness of the 41st millennium? No thanks. I don't want to be the guy in charge of improving that fuel purchase. Limited parking options. This is more of just a today thing, because when you've got a flame tank, realistically, everyone's going to move the fuck out your way. Become ungovernable. But being a good neighbor, limited parking options, because you're going to take up quite a few spots with one of these puppies. Next up, we've got friendly fire faux pas. Accidentally setting your own allies on fire is never a good look. We might be good soldiers, but, private dumb shit over here is probably too busy on his freaking earphones to pay attention to the fact that you're setting off your tank cannons here. Might wander in front, get singed up, and next thing you know, you're having to write an apology letter because you singed off Private Johnson's freaking eyebrows. Sucks to be you, but you shouldn't have been in my way. Up next, maybe we've got some of those environmental concerns too. We've all heard of climate change, and this thing might make Greta just, quake in her boots if she ever sees how much the carbon footprint is on one of these things. But, And finally, we've got those insurance nightmares. Try explaining to your insurance company why your backyard is now a charred wasteland after a small mishap with your flamethrower tank. Good luck with that claim. You ever tried to get money out of those bastards? You're better off to get, you know, I don't know where to go with that joke. I'm just going to let it be. Whew. Anyway, I've droned on for maybe just a tad bit too long now, so this might be where I say this is enough of my old folksy wisdom, but I do think this will conclude this week's video. If you guys are still here, thank you all for watching. Do appreciate it. Please do like, share, subscribe, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a good one.